I want to thank you all for being here and for giving us the opportunity to share with you some of the initiatives that are currently underway as part of the government's flagship poverty eradication program, Ehsaas, to embed financial inclusion as an approach to address poverty. We're very honored by the presence of Her Majesty Queen Maxima. You continue to inspire us all with the manner and the professionalism and the passion with which you promote financial inclusion worldwide. Thank you so much for that. As you all know, financial inclusion within Pakistan is the mandate of the State Bank of Pakistan. The Governor State Bank is the lead on financial inclusion. We have a national financial inclusion strategy in place. There are institutional arrangements in place. There's a council that is operating. There are clear metrics and responsibilities of various agencies. And of course, different agencies have been tasked on how to embed this into agenda. As far as poverty alleviation is concerned, we have made a decision in principle to use financial inclusion as one of the approaches to poverty alleviation under our new program, Ehsaas. Ehsaas is the Urdu word for empathy, empathy for the disadvantaged. This is a word that was coined by the Prime Minister. He leads the program himself. This is a multi-component, multi-sectoral initiative, an initiative which regards the private sector as an equal partner. And this initiative has a number of different components. It is aimed at plugging in welfare into the work plan of all our ministries and departments and provincial governments. And its aim is to lift the disadvantaged people. It focuses on caring for those who've been left behind from the mainstream. And I have to tell you that this is not just an academic exercise. This happens in letter and spirit. We're just coming out of a 5-hour cabinet meeting, and each cabinet meeting, the Prime Minister commences each cabinet meeting by asking each one of us what we have done in public interest and how we've embedded that in the scope of our ministries. So the government is genuinely, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, very serious about public interest initiatives and has structured into a multi-component program called Ehsaas, which we are aggressively rolling out and which we are monitoring very actively. To give you a sense of how seriously we take financial inclusion within the framework of Ehsaas, let me recall that one of the 5 time-bound, outcome-based, quantifiable goals of Ehsaas center on financial inclusion. In specific terms, we've committed to financially including 7 million individuals, 90% of whom are going to be women. And in terms of initiatives, there are 3 initiatives that focus on financial inclusion within the framework of Ehsaas. The first one is the One Woman, One Bank Account policy. The second one is bank accounts for the informal labor. And the third one is access to credit for those at the bottom of the pyramid. So let me give you a very brief sense of where we stand today and what the vision is for the future. So in terms of the One Woman, One Bank Account initiative, previously the government of Pakistan used to give quarterly cash stipends to 5.7 million women. This program of the government has undergone various stages of reform, starting from governance to its operations to programmatic reform. And one of the programmatic elements of reform center on changing it from just a social protection program to a program that marries together social protection and financial and digital inclusion objectives. This is predicated on the understanding that when women have better access to savings and to other financial products, they will be significantly empowered, and this will help them to graduate out of poverty. In terms of implementation, we are all set. We have successfully concluded a 10-month-long process of procurement. This procurement has involved the procurement of a state-of-the-art new digital banking system, digital payment system, and 2 Private sector partners have been brought on board through a competitive process, and I am very pleased to see them in the room today. In terms of the new contract which have allowed us to structure this payment system, there's a triple bottom line that is going to be impacted. This new digital payment system is going to be very empowering for beneficiary women, and we have aligned ourselves with the D3 criteria, which you, Your Majesty, are a strong advocate of and champion. So women will have more choice, they will be more aware, the payments will be more timely, they will be more transparent. That's one attribute. The second attribute is for the government of Pakistan, because as per the new contractual arrangements and the payment system, the government will significantly plug leakages and pilferages from the system. And just this year, we will accrue a benefit of 2 billion in savings in terms of operational costs alone. And of course, we're going to try to quantify the magnitude of the benefits in terms of pilferages. And thirdly, it is the public-private dimension that is very exciting. Because just after we were able to do our procurement, we saw that the private sector partners were really ahead of us in terms of planning the financial products, in terms of reaching out to these beneficiary women. So there's a whole sea change in terms of the programmatic construct of this program, and I really want to thank the Prime Minister for his leadership and for the support that he provided to us during the course of these very difficult procurements that we have done over the last 10 months. And of course, my teams I'm very proud of in this regard. We realize within Ehsaas that just bank accounts and saving products are not enough if we put the financial inclusion lens, and therefore there are a number of different enablers that have been embedded to develop the entire ecosystem in order for us to graduate poor individuals out of poverty. One of the enablers is handsets, because in our previous experience in Punjab, we realized that when digital finance was provided to farmers, the construct of the program was very good, but the cost of handsets was very prohibitive. So we're working with the Ministry of Telecom to examine how we can overcome that gap. And we will, of course, be reaching out to your office and to the Gates Foundation, who are technically supporting us in this initiative, for specific technical guidance from GSMA on how to ensure that we have affordable handsets available, including those handsets where you can have QR codes and apps on feature phones. The second enabler for us is connectivity, because this entire reform and change would be meaningless if we did not work on that front. And to that end, the two things that I'd like to mention in particular were, firstly, the Prime Minister has approved the transformation of our 500 field offices into digital hubs, work on which is currently underway. And secondly, we're working with the Universal Service Fund, which is the government of Pakistan's entity which collects levies from cell phone transactions, pools them into a fund, and then uses those levies to enhance broadband connectivity in the far-flung areas. Thirdly, of course, we will be working very closely with the Governor's State Bank to ensure that the financial literacy interventions, there's a synergy between the general financial literacy interventions and the ones that are envisaged in Ehsaas. And of course, let me not forget to mention that we are very closely in touch with our private sector partners, because we realize that in the space of microfinance, in the space of commercial banking, there are a number of artificial intelligence enabled innovations in fintech, which will be extremely beneficial for building value chains. I'd also like to mention here that another initiative of Ehsaas focuses explicitly on the creation of rural value chains for enterprise development. So I'm sure you'd appreciate that there's a lot of joining of the dots here. We layer up the effort that we are around the National Socioeconomic Survey, which, as many of you are aware, is Pakistan's first geospatially tagged survey, and the possibilities for using artificial intelligence and marrying it with digital financial inclusion are immense. So this is the first bucket of interventions that we are doing around the One Woman, One Bank Account initiative and the Rural Enterprise Development Initiative, both of which are mutually synergistic. That's the first part of the three prongs that I was talking about. In terms of the other two, I'm not going to take this long. I'll be very brief. The second part of the transformation, the financial inclusion transformation in Ehsaas, centers on giving informal workers bank accounts. And this was an instruction to us from the Prime Minister. Just to bring to bear the scale, there are 27.3 million workers in Pakistan who work in the informal sector. There are women who work as domestic servants in homes. There are women who work in industrial establishments. There are rural women whose work is seen as an extension of their household responsibilities. And these 27.3 million workers are outside of any social security net. They don't have access to pensions. So our entry point is to give them bank accounts. And of course, there's legislation that has been enacted in 2 of our provinces on which we will build further. 9 meetings over a period of 9 months, 3 months, gave us a series of different recommendations, but the one that is very pragmatic and immediately executable is the one that involves using bank accounts as an entry point. And we're working with commercial banks to develop the incentives for them to underwrite the costs of this campaign rather than the government spending public monies. The third one, very briefly in terms of financial inclusion in the Ehsaas framework, is the access to credit piece. On July the 5th, the Prime Minister launched the National Poverty Graduation Initiative, which had many access to credit components. As you know, we operate in an ecosystem of national socioeconomic registry, centered ranking of socioeconomic status of our entire population. And based on those rankings, we have designed financial products for different segments of the population. For the poorest of the poor who are within safety nets, we allow 3 cycles of interest-free loans. We currently give, in partnership with 22 NGOs, 80,000 loans on a monthly basis, starting from way back in July. For a rung above that, a sister initiative called Kamyab Jawan has a program of collaboration with commercial banks where the government underwrites part of the interest, and then of course graduating to microfinance, where the entire spectrum becomes very sustainable for beneficiaries to graduate. So I just wanted to end by saying that the government of Prime Minister Imran Khan is very keen to leverage financial inclusion as an instrument for poverty eradication. We realize that this will give women the empowerment that is their due, which is what they deserve, to take their families out of poverty. And I don't mean to alienate all the men in the room, but we know from evidence that whenever a woman has the purse strings in the house, the social outcomes tend to be much better. The children tend to be better educated, their health tends to be better. They, statistically, we know that they're less stunted. We know that they have better nutrition outcomes. So for all these reasons, we think that financial inclusion is a very important tool for poverty eradication. We have had a very good meeting with Her Majesty and her team this morning. What we require is, of course, a lot of technical input at this level and at great speed. We are going to continue to talk to them to ensure that we maximize on sharing of experiences internationally, because what's happening in Pakistan on various different fronts simultaneously requires a lot of informing from international experiences. I also want to say in the end that what we are doing in Ehsaas with regard to financial inclusion is one aspect of a very large ecosystem. Of course, the Ministry of Finance and our central bank are the custodians of the policy. They are the regulators, and they are the ones who have to turn around a number of different projects to which they're fully committed, including the digital payment system of the government, the entire ecosystem of the government. We in Ehsaas, with our 7 million beneficiaries, stand ready to plug into that system. We are the largest player, and we feel that with all the threads that we are working on, we will be able to give it a lot of impetus. Thank you once again, Your Majesty, for being here with us, and we look forward to continue to draw on your support.